You've got your two finished pieces. They're identical, or they should be. And so the next step is to bring those two pieces, and you're going to bring them right sides together. Right sides are the dark, pretty side with the nice print on it. Those are going to go together in the middle. So on the outside, what you should see is the wrong side, which is the duller side. I'm going to line up at the top in the corner here where I had made that initial cut in the beginning. And along the side, I'm just going to put some pins in. So you're pinning to sew. Your pins will go in through both layers, in and out, perpendicular to the edge. Probably one every 2 inches, just to hold it in place. Okay. Pin across the bottom. Actually, I'm going to go pin the other side first. So I'm going to back to the other side, match up the corner, match up the side. All right, and now all we have left to do is sew the two pieces together and put our casing in, or the drawstring in the casing. So you are almost finished. It should look just like that before you begin sewing. I need to return my stitch back to a standard straight stitch. So I can either use my stitch selector and change the stitch length and stitch width, or if I just turn my machine off and back on, it's automatically going to reset to where I need to be. So that's kind of a standard. If you remember back to the very first thing that we did for the project, we snipped in from the outside edge 5/8 of an inch. So now we're going to sew 5/8 an inch from the edge. We can use the presser or the throat plate as our guide here. So if you look on the throat plate, there is a line right here. It is just inside of this. There's a grid, like a square grid table, and the 5/8 line is just right inside here. So we can use that as our guide. You're going to have your machine threaded. Make sure that you've already turned your stitch back to a straight stitch, and I'm just going to go under here. I'm going to line the edge of my fabric up with this 5/8 line over here. Okay, I'm going to drop my needle. I'm going to lower my presser foot. I will stitch forward just about 3 stitches using my foot pedal, and now I'm reversing to the end. Okay, and now I'm just going to keep straight and even over here. I'll pull those pins out as I get to them so I don't shift over my fabric. Keeping it even on that side. 5/8 seam allowance is what we're doing here. 5/8 seam allowance is pretty much the standard seam allowance for most sewing projects. Though you do always want to look at your directions and get exact measurements. That's a pretty standard measurement in sewing, 5/8 of an inch. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to slow down when you get toward the bottom edge, because I want to wait till I'm about 5/8 of an inch from the edge. I'm leaving my needle down. I'm going to do a pivot. What you can do here is you can kind of look and see. I'm actually a little too far over, so I'm going to go back to where I was. Using my hand wheel, I'm going to just turn the hand wheel toward me. I'm going to go one more stitch, leave my needle down again, and now this time I'm right in line with that 5/8 line. Okay, so now I pivoted. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to stitch all the way across the bottom until I come to the other side of the bottom piece, and then I'm going to pivot one more time. So once you get experience with sewing, you get better about eyeballing things, like kind of knowing when to slow down, when to stop. Okay, I'm going to check it right here. It's going to go a little too far, so I'm going to again put my presser foot down, use my hand wheel to turn one more stitch, and this time I was right on. Okay, so now I just have that last side. I'm going to stitch up. Again, I'm still watching right over here, keeping in line with that grid. The other thing you can watch for is just, if you're not comfortable watching this actual mark over here, you can look at the amount of fabric you have coming off the other side of the presser foot. That can be helpful as well. Okay, so here we come. We're almost back to where those 2 points meet that first initial cut. Once we get there, now I'm going to reverse about 3 stitches straight up to the top. Okay, and I'm all done. So that is all the sewing that you do for this project. We have a couple little steps of completion. One thing you'll want to do right now is just go through and make sure that you've trimmed up any loose threads that you have. Just clean it up and get it nice and neat.